David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. An important part of one's fountain pen education is understanding a little bit about inks, most notably which inks can be used in fountain pens and which inks should be avoided. Today I have for you a pen which can be utilized with one of those inks that you typically cannot use. And the pen is called the Indigraph. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Indigraph, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about the pen. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to the good folks at Indigraph for providing this pen for review. The company is based out of Spain and run by a gentleman by the name of Inigo, who had reached out to me regarding reviewing this pen. I thought it sounded interesting, so I agreed. The pen arrives in this simple box. The sleeve slides off, and then inside we have a couple of things. There is a use and care guide here. There is a bottle of India ink, and then the pen is nestled in here in this little felt cushion. And here we have the pen. This is the Indigraph. The distinguishing feature of this pen is that it can be used with India ink. Now, standard fountain pen ink is dye-based. It's made with dye and water and a few other ingredients in there. And India ink is pigment-based, and the pigments have larger particles which easily clog up fountain pen nibs and feeds. Typically, using India ink in a fountain pen is a recipe for disaster. It's a good way to make your fountain pen inoperable. This Indigraph pen, however, has an innovative design, which I'll show you here in a moment, that makes the use of India ink with this pen possible. India ink is waterproof and is utilized greatly in creating art. For example, if you created a drawing with India ink and then you want to fill in the drawing with watercolor paints, the watercolors won't cause the ink to run. In order to get a closer look at this unique pen and what makes it work, please join me over here at camera 2. So here is the Indigraph. It is made from a lightweight aluminum. Let's start by taking a look at the end of the cap. The end has a special feature which makes the use of India ink possible, and I'll get back to that here in a bit. The cap is straight. It then smoothly transitions into the band, which is on the barrel rather than on the cap. And something interesting about this band that has the company name printed on it is that included with the pen are 2 additional bands, one in red and one in blue. So if you don't care for this black, you can change it out to the red or blue. I think the inclusion of those bands are nice, and it helps provide a little pop of color on your pen if you're into that kind of thing. The barrel is straight until about this point in time where it tapers down and then is straight for the remainder. Then we have this clip. It's a bit different. The clip is on the end of the barrel rather than on the end of the cap. If you're carrying this in the pocket, that would cause the nib to be facing down, which could potentially lead to some linking. Nothing that I have experienced, but just a heads up that that's something that might be possible. An interesting feature of this clip is that it is designed to be removed. So if you prefer your pens to be clipless, you could just screw off the end here and screw this back on, and now you have a clipless design. And the end of the barrel is flat. Now, the cap unscrews, and I will say that you need to be careful when you unscrew it, because right there, I actually unscrewed the barrel rather than unscrewing the cap. And so it's just something you need to pay attention to. Maybe if they would have flipped the threads on there and had one go the other direction, then maybe that would have prevented that issue. But underneath, we have what I believe is a number 5 Jowo stainless steel nib. It is available in extra fine, fine, medium, as well as 1.1 and 1.4 millimeter stubs. There's also an option for a gold nib. And then here's a look at the plastic feed. Coming in at just about 8.7 millimeters, the section is a bit on the slim side. I mean, this is in total a fairly slim pen. And it is angled up just slightly, only about 0.2 of a millimeter from beginning to end, until you reach the threads and a step up to the barrel. While this section, as well as the rest of the pen, is aluminum, I don't find it to be slick at all, and the matte finish does a good job of helping you maintain your grip. The pen is long enough to use unposted, which is a good thing, because even though it would appear with this thinner end that the cap would post, it doesn't fit on there at all. Even without the clip in here, it's just not meant to be posted. This is a cartridge converter pen. It will accept standard international cartridges, and a converter is provided. And you can utilize standard fountain pen ink with this pen as well. Actually, while we have this off, let's go ahead and change out the symbol here. And now we'll put a little red in here to give it a bit of a pop of color. Okay, let's get to the main feature of this pen, which would be its ability to use India ink. It makes it possible with the unique design feature of having a little water reservoir here on the end of the cap. Let's see, you can actually see a little bit of water in there. See, you can kind of see the water level. So rather than an ink window on here, you have a water window on the end of this pen. What you do is you unscrew this cap, right, just a little bit, and you can see that there is a hole right here. And what you do is you go ahead and put that under the faucet, and then you can go ahead and fill it up with water, and then a little water came out there. I actually find it's easier to totally screw off the lid like this, rather than using that little hole. Totally screw it off and then fill it up with water right here. It doesn't take much. Here's a little diagram of what is going on with the cap. There is a little ink window on the top like you saw, so you can monitor your water level. And then there is a membrane which regulates the water and surrounds the nib with a level of higher humidity, which the company claims will keep the nib from drying out and make it possible to use with the pigmented India ink. Now, I don't profess to be an expert when it comes to India ink and its varying properties, but apparently there are some India inks which would work better than others with this pen. And in the use and care guide, which comes with the pen, they do list a number of ink brands and how they feel they will work with this pen on a scale of 4 for optimal, down to ones that they do not recommend. The Indigraph fountain pen is available to purchase via the company website. I'll put a link to it in the notes below. This standard model here sells for around $90, depending on the dollars to euro conversion rate. There is also a gold nib option, which sells for $215. And then for around $75, something interesting, you can purchase this pen without a nib. It accepts number 5 Yovo nib units, so if you have one of those with a favorite grind, then you can utilize it with this pen. Now, I've had this pen for a few months now. Sometimes I can quickly review pens once they're in my possession, but for this one, I needed to test it over time. I wanted to make sure that over time the pen would perform as advertised. And I found out that it has. I've had this pen inked up and water in it for quite some time, and every time I go to write with it, it works. It does exactly what they say it's supposed to do. So that's a very good thing. And I feel that the price range is reasonable for the baseline model of this pen. So if you're an artist who likes to use India ink on a regular basis, then this would be something I feel would be very useful. And if you just want to utilize it with standard ink, then it has a unique look and performs in that regard as well. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Indigraph. Here it is with a Sailor Pro Gear. Here it is with a Diplomat Arrow. And here it is with a Pilot Vanishing Point. And in regard to some other comparisons, here it is with a Montegrappa Elmo Chrysiocola, a Platinum 3776 in Chartreuse Blue, and a Lamy All-Star. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the All-Star, and here it is with the Platinum 3776, And here it is with the Sailor Pro Gear. Here we go with the writing sample for the Indigraph. And this is an extra fine stainless steel nib. And the ink that I'm using here today is the ink that came with the pen, which is Indigraph. And it's a black India ink. This is what the ink looks like. It's a fairly healthy black, fairly saturated. This is what it looks like in comparison with Mont Blanc Mystery Black, as well as the Sailor Kiwaguru, which is one of my favorite blacks. And then here it is with Noodler's Dark Matter. Here is the little bottle that comes with it. Nice little design here. And India ink is readily available from art supply stores as well as many other places as well. And let's take a look at the rest of the writing sample. Now, there was a little bit of a skip here at the beginning. I had it uncapped here for a little bit under these rather warm lights. That probably had something to do with that. I will say that I'm not a huge fan of extra fine nibs, at least the steel ones, and this one is a little bit on the scratchy side. You can get a decent amount of line variation in here from not putting any pressure to putting a decent amount. So you can get some nice line variation out of this pen. And in regard to ink flow, for an extra fine, it has worked well for me. And in regard to some reverse writing, I wouldn't say that this nib performs very well using it in reverse. And in regard to some fast writing, there's no issues at all. So there you have the Indigraph. I think that it's an interesting pen. Is it a bit of a novelty? Yes, in regard to if you are an artist, then it would be nice to be able to use India ink. But then, as I mentioned before, even if you just like the design of this pen, it's something that would look nice and work well with regular fountain pen ink as well. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.